1 0 plus 5 seconds.
Liftoff normal. P1
Here
tracking.
we have a majestic liftoff of LVM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft.
P2 tracking.
प्रज्वलन और सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन LVM-3 M4 रॉकेट का
This video fills everybody with joy and pride. And for UPSC Civil Services aspirant, the details are here. Now, before we go on and discuss the details, I want to point out to the foundation batch that Sriram Zayas bring to you guys on an academy platform. The foundation batch is a comprehensive coverage of the 100% syllabus, be it the prelims, mains, or interviews. If you're preparing for 2024, you should check that out. Of course, if you want to avail a 25% discount, this referral code is something that you should learn by heart and apply this referral code, be a part of this mission that we are running on an academy platform. Now, let's begin with the topic. There have been a sequence of events. If you talk about the Chandrayaan mission, it was way back in August 2003 where Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, our ex-prime minister, he had announced the Chandrayaan program. Chandrayaan 1 took off in October 2008, 5 years later, and then there was the entry into lunar transfer trajectory in 2008 November, about a month later. As far as the Chandrayaan 1 mission is concerned, it is seen that the probe ejects from Chandrayaan 1 and they crashed near the lunar south pole, which is the dark side of the moon, as we call it, which basically, while crash landing, confirmed the presence of water molecules, which was quite a big discovery. And this discovery pushed the entire monies into the moon missions back again. If you talk about 1960s, 1950s, the missions for moon were the talk of the town. But today, because of the findings of Chandrayaan 1, the entire shift started towards moon missions again. Chandrayaan 1 ended as a program in 2009 August, and then began the journey for second and third missions towards the moon, particularly the dark side of the moon. If you are a Transformers fan, you know what I'm talking about. Now, Chandrayaan 2 was launched in July 2019, 10 years later, a decade later. And if you would notice, the launch is around July and August. I will talk about the reason as well by the end of the session. Make sure to watch it till the end. Now, in 2019, the second Chandrayaan or the Chandrayaan 2 was launched from Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota, and the spacecraft was inserted in the lunar orbit about a month later. Then you had the Vikram lander, which was separated while the moon orbit was achieved, 100 kilometers lunar or polar orbit. However, because the communications ended, we've lost communication around 2.1 kilometers away from the surface of the moon. It was found, the Vikram lander was found hard landed or crash landed on the surface a couple of weeks later. Today it is 2023. 4 years down the line, we are again planning for Chandrayaan 3. Chandrayaan 3 is now a mission, is a go, and we have seen this video. It was a marvelous and a joyous and such a proud moment for every Indian. Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft, which was scheduled to lift off today, second launch pad at the Satish Dhawan Space Center. This particular launch happened. Scientists at ISRO, they have tentatively scheduled the soft landing around the same time, August 23-24. So we have picked up the same time slot which we have picked up in the last two launches. Once we have understood the sequence of events, let's understand the mission. The mission, should you choose to accept, is a 3.84 lakh kilometer long distance that is to be covered by Chandrayaan 3 on its own. The lander is to be carried by the spacecraft and it is expected to make a soft landing by August 23 or 24. After it reaches the desired position, the lander module will be expected to descend which is basically the soft landing, where on the south pole of the moon, the dark side of the moon. The moon's south pole region has been chosen. Why? Because it remains much of a mystery. It remains much larger than that at the north pole. There could be a possibility of presence of water in the permanently shadowed areas around it. तो हमारी कोशिश है कि वहां पर जाकर उसे चेक किया जाए. As far as the mission is concerned, it has three phases. The Earth-centric phase, which is basically the pre-launch, the launch, and the ascent, which is the Earth-bound maneuver. When we take the Earth-bound maneuver, we will pick up from the gravitational force certain energy, and फिर हम lunar transfer phase की ओर जाएंगे. And it is in the lunar transfer phase where we enter into the transfer trajectory. And then from there, we enter into the lunar-centric phase, where we will be talking about the lunar orbit insertion phase, moon-bound maneuver phase, propulsion module, lunar module separation, deboost phase, where we will be trying to soft land. So pre-landing phase, landing phase, the normal phase where the lander lands, makes a soft landing, and then the rover walks over to the moon. Moon-centric normal orbit phase, which is somewhere around 100 kilometers circular orbit around the moon for propulsion module. Now, these are the three different phases. As far as the launch vehicle is concerned, the Fat Boy, the most successful GSLV Mark III, which is now renamed as and touted as Fat Boy LVM-3M4. This is the largest, the heaviest, and the most powerful engines and the most powerful launch vehicle that ISRO has. Heavy lift capabilities, has around lifting capabilities of 8,000 tons if it is the low earth orbit. And अगर आप इसको higher earth orbit या geostationary transfer orbit तक लेकर जाएंगे तो payload capacity थोड़ी सी कम हो जाती है, 4,000 kilograms रह जाती है. But still the meanest, the heaviest, the largest of them all, Fat Boy LVM-3. It was earlier known to be called as GSLV Mark III. So ये M3 जो है basically Mark III, Mark IV है. LV is the launch vehicle. Now, this launch vehicle Mark III is a three-stage medium lift launch vehicle which has been developed by ISRO and has a diameter of 4 meters, lift-off mass of 640 tons, carry a payload of 8,000 kilograms अगर low earth orbit तक जाना है. But otherwise, it is only 4,000 kilometers, halves down. Cryogenic upper stage है with CE-20, India's largest cryogenic engine, which also uses two S-200 solid rocket boosters required to make the takeoff. It provides them the thrust. But the core stage is of course powered by two L-110 liquid stage Vikas rockets. So you will have to remember these details because these details are relevant for prelims particularly. Moving on to the spacecraft. As far as the spacecraft is concerned, it contains three parts: the lander, the propulsion module and the rover. Lander जो है वो land करेगा and rover उसमें से निकल कर जाएगा. Propulsion module will help you make the orbit. The lander is designed to make a soft landing, particularly on a site in the south pole. तो वो क्या करेगा? उसके अंदर rover होगा. Rover will carry out all the chemical analysis of the lunar surface because it will have certain specific experimental probes which we will be discussing just now. Now, apart from that, chemical analysis hone wala hai. Further, the propulsion module has one major function: to carry the lander and the rover from launch vehicle injection towards that 100 kilometer circular polar lunar orbit, जहां से फिर वो soft landing करना शुरू करेंगे. The propulsion module also has a scientific payload that will begin its operation after the separation. Now, तो एक आपका propulsion module होगा, separation के बाद वो भी scientific operations करेगा. Apart from that, you will also have the lander and the rover. The rover itself will begin the in situ experimentations on the surface. Now, why Chandrayaan 3 is so special? For particularly certain reasons. One, the propulsion module has SHAPE. SHAPE is basically an experimental payload where you will be able to study the spectropolarimetric analysis of the Earth in the near infrared wavelength. SHAPE is the spectropolarimetry of habitable planet Earth, which is to study Earth from the lunar orbit. तो वहां जाके Earth को study किया जाएगा using SHAPE. Apart from that, SHAPE payload के अलावा propulsion module's main function is of course to carry the lander module, and from there the lander module will get separated and you will have the rover as well. Now the lander module after landing has payloads, which is one Rambha LP. Rambha LP is to measure the near surface प्लाज्मा आयंस एंड इलेक्ट्रॉन्स जो कि उसके एरिया के आसपास होंगे, वहां के प्लाज्मा आयंस, इलेक्ट्रॉन डेंसिटी एंड द वेरिएशन इन प्लाज्मा आयंस एंड इलेक्ट्रॉन डेंसिटी अराउंड द लैंडर मॉड्यूल विल बी मेजर्ड बाय Rambha LP. Further, you have chased Chandra's surface thermophysical experiment, which is to carry out the measurements of thermophysical properties or thermal properties on the surface of the moon near the south pole. Then you have the ILSA experiment, which is instrument for lunar seismic activities, just to measure the seismic activities around the landing site, delineating the structure of the crust and the mantle of the moon. तो मून का इंटरनल स्ट्रक्चर ILSA मेजर करेगा. सरफेस के ऊपर थर्मल प्रॉपर्टीज मेजर करने के लिए चेस्ट है. Rambha LP is for plasma ions and electron density. Further, you have the rover. Now, rover, when it makes the soft landing, it would come out from the lander. Of course, after the soft landing, it will have APXS, which is alpha particle X-ray spectrometry, which is basically to derive the chemical composition and also infer the mineralogical composition of the moon at the surface. So basically, rover will understand the surface of the moon. Further, the rover, which has a mission life of 1 lunar day, only 14 Earth days, it has another payload which is LIBS. LIBS is laser-induced breakdown spectroscope. LIBS basically will be used to determine the elemental composition of the lunar soil. Again, surface की properties measure करने के लिए lunar soil की elemental composition क्या है, rocks around the lunar landing site, to measure their composition, etc. All of that will be a part of this mission. Further, why did we choose this time period? Actually, this time period is when the moon and the earth are a bit closer to each other during this part of the year altogether. So आप notice करेंगे Chandrayaan 1, Chandrayaan 2 and Chandrayaan 3 हमेशा जुलाई अगस्त की विंडो में ही लॉन्च हुए. And that is all with respect to Chandrayaan 3. Make sure to follow Sri Ram's IS on an academy platform and on various other channels to make sure you get best and the most important and relevant information with respect to your UPSC Civil Services preparation. This is me, Sanadat Bhardwaj, signing off. Take care. God bless you all. Bye-bye.